Well, again, unfortunately, it's our last day. But let me add something to yesterday, to our visit to the music city of Leipzig. We visited the Mendelssohn house yesterday, the last of Felix Mendelssohn, and we also learned that Richard Wagner was born in Leipzig. Wagner was 4 years younger than Mendelssohn, and he admired him greatly, and his music was influenced by his works. Wagner went to school in Leipzig and also in Dresden, and later he was royal court conductor in Dresden for life. The only reason why he didn't stay there is because, like Gottfried Semper, the architect of the Semper Opera, he took part in the peaceful revolution, no, not so peaceful, sorry, in the unsuccessful revolution of 1849, and had to flee and was a wanted man. He was pardoned later, nevertheless. But that's why he ended up in other places and eventually in Bayreuth. Anyway, so Wagner clearly showed his admiration for Mendelssohn, but he got quite a cool response. So Wagner later changed his tune. In fact, he attacked Mendelssohn and his music, and he really tried to ruin his reputation. Nevertheless, the two composers have still one thing in common. When people get married all over the world, they do it to the music of Mendelssohn and Wagner. Both composed wedding marches, as my colleague Christoph from Dresden Marketing always points out. Mendelssohn's goes like this. Da, 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 da. You get the picture. And Christoph could sing that better than I do. Wagner's equally famous. Ta 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 da, ta 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 da. So, Mendelssohn's wedding march was part of his music or stage music for A Midsummer Night's Dream. Wagner's march was composed for his opera Lohengrin, which he created during a summer stay in Graupa. That's a village very close to Dresden-Pillnitz. Remember where the summer palace of the Saxon king was, that looked like a Chinese palace, and where he boarded a steamboat. The farmhouse where he stayed for the summer and basically the adjoining hunting palace are now the Richard Wagner Museum, which deals with the composer's time in Saxony. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add, and when you come here again, maybe make time for the Wagner Museum as well. Like I said, we could fill a week with music experiences. But now, let's look at today's itinerary. Yeah, first we're gonna see Görlitz, which many people consider to be Germany's most beautiful town. Even Hollywood is enthralled. So am I. It's my favorite town in Saxony. In fact, I lived 15 months in Görlitz about 10 years ago. We will also have lunch there in a very quaint restaurant. Then we will carry on to Bautzen, a very medieval town, and also a capital in many different ways. After that, I will send you packing, but I will not let you go before we've had our goodbye dinner in my favorite restaurant in Dresden. So once again, you're in for a special day. Enjoy! Dzień dobry and guten Tag. I'm standing with one foot in Germany and one foot in Poland, here in Görlitz, about 75 minutes east from Dresden. Since the end of World War II, the town has been divided between Germany and Poland, with the Polish part now called Görlitz. However, the historic town center is in Germany, and it is the largest monument site in Germany, with about 4,000 historic buildings, since the town was not destroyed in World War II. 4,000 historic buildings means it has 6 times more historic buildings than Rothenburg ob der Tauber, so there's a lot to see. There's also parts of the old fortifications which are still there. For example, also around the big church that you can see behind me. Let's go and have a look at the church first. We are at the Church of St. Peter and Paul, always referred to as St. Peter's Church. It was built in the 15th century as one of the largest late Gothic hall churches in the region. Due to a fire in 1691, the interior presents itself today in the Baroque style. The most striking feature of the interior is the organ, the so-called sun organ, due to the pipes which look like sundials. Most of the pipes of the sundials are fully functional. The organ is demonstrated every Sunday in the so-called Orgelpunkt 12 demonstration. In the summer season, that also takes place at 12 o'clock on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. The Baroque part of the organ can even imitate bird voices and the sound of the ocean. The oldest secular building is the White House, meaning vote house, from the 12th century. In the 13th century, textiles from Görlitz became a hot commodity, and vote was used to dye the fabrics blue. The vote was stored in this building. Today it serves as an academy to teach people how to preserve old buildings. Makes sense, doesn't it? Especially if you know that the communist government of East Germany planned to knock down all the old buildings to make space for a modern socialist town. Luckily, they ran out of money before any major damage could be done. Görlitz has the largest number of Renaissance houses in any town in Germany. This one here behind me is called the Biblical House, since it has depictions from the Old and New Testament on its facade. river that forms the border today is called Neiße, or to be correct, Lausitzer Neiße. And this is the street that is named after the river, the Neißstraße. Here at number 30, you find an imposing Baroque building built for a wealthy Damask trader. It is a museum today and also contains the beautiful library of the former Upper Lusatian Society of Science. The library was built in such a way to demonstrate the power of knowledge. And definitely it also demonstrates the beauty of knowledge, even if it's old style. It may not come as a surprise that Görlitz is a popular location for making movies. But you may not know that Academy Award-winning movies like Grand Budapest Hotel and The Reader were shot here. You can take guided or self-guided walks to all the places where these and many other movies have been shot. To make cities and towns car-friendly after the war, a lot of squares were sacrificed. Not so here in Görlitz, where all the squares are still intact. This is the most beautiful of them, the Lower Market Square. Please note that there are buildings in the middle of the square and many houses with arcades. The town hall covers a whole side of the square and consists of buildings from different periods of time. The one you see in the background is the latest edition, and that's more than 100 years old. Here we are at the Salesian Museum at the Lower Market Square. It is located in the oldest Renaissance house of Görlitz, the Schönhof, which means beautiful yard. Many rulers stayed here in this representative building. Let's go and take a look at it. In this building, many historic details have been preserved over the centuries, including colorful ceilings, medieval tiles, decoration details, and even a water closet from the Middle Ages. This building also belongs to the family of the so-called Görlitz hall houses, which were used by the rich textile merchants as a showroom, storage room, office and living quarters. The goods were brought in by horse carriage to the central hall and then unloaded, and the carriages exited at the other end. Since the central hall has the height of 1.5 floors, there are intermediate levels everywhere in the house. The Görlitz hall houses are very special, and Görlitz is also trying to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site with these type of houses. From the bay window, you have a commanding view all the way to the upper market square and also down to the lower market square. The Church of the Holy Trinity was built in the 13th century as the church of the Franciscan monastery. It is located here at the upper market square, and it has a beautiful interior reflecting the changing times. The portrait of Martin Luther, the Reformer, indicates that it is a Protestant church now. But you can still imagine the monks sitting here on the choir stalls. The altar behind me is Baroque, but there's another one that we're going to have a look at next. The altar of St. Mary is from the late Gothic period. But come, I show you my favorite. This is a sculpture of Jesus at rest before his crucifixion. Here on the ceiling, you can see an orchestra of angels. You know, the best thing about Görlitz, which is about 950 years old, is that it still feels like a very well-kept secret. Forget about crowds, forget about high prices. You will always feel like you own the place. And yet, a lot of people like the place so much that they return there regularly or even retire there. For me, it was also love at first sight. So, a little different here with the lady who is my guest and our guest today. She was born in Görlitz and she returned to her roots in 2017 to become managing director of the organization who markets Görlitz as a business location and as a tourist destination. So, warm welcome, Andrea Baer.
I'm really happy to be here and to speak to you and actually the whole world today about Görlitz.
So why did you return to Görlitz?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I have been living around the world from Washington DC till Paris, from Cape Town to Geneva, but now it feels like coming home. It's different to be home than living around the world. So for me, it's not just the job, what is important if you go somewhere, but also to have a good life for your family. And this is actually what you can have in Görlitz and in the region. And this means like we knew that we have good schools there, even German-Polish schools, that you can find a house to buy or an historic apartment you have seen in the little movie before for rent, for instance. And this high quality of life is one major thing actually what also made us move and go back home.
So while you were away, have your views of Görlitz changed, and what is it that you like so much about your hometown?
I don't want to say, or maybe we can say it's this slowness. It's not this big anonymous city. It's a small city, but you can have every opportunity. You can have everything there, from a good cultural night to the buildings or the sightseeing you have seen. But what is the most important for me, that you have like free space to be creative. You have people who do their things with heart to build future for the city and the region. You have this three-angle border, or how you call it, tree-border angle region. So we are in half an hour in Czech Republic. You are in 2 minutes in the city of Poland, and you don't have to stand in traffic jams, for instance, yeah. And all of this package makes this, quality of this city so life worth. But for me, the most is if you step like 2 minutes outside the city, it's completely silence. What you can find there, and where in the world, you find this is quality, and this is how it changed my view from being in big cities, maybe because also I was younger, and now I have a certain age, but this is the perfect place to be with children and your family.
So what are the biggest challenges, if there are any, in marketing Görlitz as a touristic destination?
I would say to pick the most beautiful one, because there are just so many, So I know it's very comfort to say that, but we have, or maybe the most obvious one to visit Görlitz is the great architecture with the more than 4,000 buildings, landmarked buildings, listed buildings, and you don't know actually, where to start first, with the Holy Grave, which is a copy like from the Holy Grave of Jerusalem, till to the great churches, till to the region at the hall. So actually it's not difficult at all, because you have such a variety.
Good to hear that. And we already mentioned that, and you already talked about that, that Görlitz is not only close to the Czech border, but of course is right at the Polish border, and there's also the Polish half of the town, basically, Görlitz. How do you work together? Is it a good cooperation with the Polish side?
Yeah, we call our city European City, so it's called, also my company, it's called Europastadt Görlitz Görlitz GmbH, and just the river Neiße is dividing us, but not just dividing. There's so many bridges who connect us at the same time, and today there are more than 4,000 Polish people are living in Görlitz, and not just this, but there are German-Polish families. There are Polish people who are living in Görlitz but working in Görlitz, and if you go like to our theater, you have the subtitles in Polish. So it's really not just the name, on top, because we always say we are in the middle of Europe, and that's what we are. But we also live this European feeling, and so if you come as a visitor, you just can see the difference because of the language and the currency, actually.
You have, or not you, but the town has finally restored the wonderful synagogue, and we opened as a cultural center. I mentioned that before. How important is the rich Jewish history or heritage of Görlitz for the town?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a Jewish community today anymore. But still, there are outstanding buildings and sites which referring to Jewish inhabitants. And what do I mean? Not just the synagogue you mentioned, but and we call it the new synagogue because we also have an old synagogue, and there's also like a cultural meeting point. But also, and I still have it, or this feeling in my heart, if you go like to the Jewish graveyard, the historic Jewish graveyard, it's an atmosphere, you know, you don't forget what happened, but it's good that it stays, yeah, and you can be there and have a look. And not just this, but we have also like department stores, all Jewish department stores. It's called the Toczek House, or for instance, old villas. And they are also today still called Villa Ephraim, for instance. And so actually it shows that still today we can say that the Jewish community has an impact in who is the city today. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. What do you plan to attract more international guests? And I want to add something to that. We have talked about being on the Polish border, being close to the Czech border. So you said, yes, the language is very present, the Polish language definitely in the town, Czech Republic so close. Does one then forget also about guests from other countries? Is there a danger in that one is too focused on the neighboring countries?
No, definitely not. Not just because I'm, you know, having or have been living in the world, but people are really open to the world. You know, we are on the border to Germany, so we just, you know, have to be open to the world. We would love to be open, and the good thing is, or what I mean is, everybody is welcome. Yeah. And this is what I really mean by heart. But the good thing is you can visit our city on your own. So for the first time when you arrive, because like every highlight, most of the highlights are in walking distances. Yeah. So there you don't need any language anywhere. Yeah. You just have the feeling and the view. But also we have many festivals. Yeah. Like normally the Christkindl market, which is very known, or an old town festival, which is even located on both sides in Görlitz and in Görlitz. And but for sure, it's not just that you know can go your own way and have a stunning view at this architecture, but we also have brochures in different languages. We have a homepage in English, sure, yeah, this is the world language, and in Polish and in Czech. We have created guided tours in different languages. Just ask, you know. So we will find for every language somebody who can guide you through almost through every language, can guide you through the city. And but what actually foreigners most appreciate is you mentioned it, I think, before, the topic of Görlitz beside the architecture, because as you might know or have heard before, there are many international films like Grand Budapest Hotel, Inglourious Basterds, or Around the World in 80 Days. Yeah, they all produce their films in Görlitz because of this beautiful scenery. And here we also you have seen these pictures before in the little Görlitz movie. We created this walk of Görlitz where you can read about the filming history of Görlitz.
Very good. I mentioned that Görlitz has 6 times more buildings that are historic than Rothenburg or Bertauber, that everybody sees kind of the epitome of a historic town in Germany. Would you like to become a second Rothenburg ob der Tauber?
For sure, we want to be known or famous or however you call it. But foremost, actually, we want to be a lively cultural place, yeah, where we welcome our visitors, where we can have, or where we have time to talk to them, to guide them, where to go best, because it's important to look behind the doors in Görlitz. You will find a lot of, wow, interesting, stunning things, and we just want that visitors have a great time. So, doesn't matter if you are really, really famous. You don't have to. I think we don't have to be Rothenburg. We are Görlitz, you know. So this is special enough. I'm so proud of my city that I can say that.
You might have thought that I'm enthusiastic. Look at her. I have one last question. We already talked about that the Czech Republic is close and you're on the Polish border. I have to repeat myself. What do you recommend? What's to see around Görlitz? Because we only paid a visit to Görlitz, but couldn't look at what's around Görlitz.
Myself, I really enjoy the whole region, especially also with kids. This is for me important also to mention because it's a great area for a family also to discover. Yeah, and what do I mean? You can go hiking in the mountains of Zittau. It's just 20 minutes or 30 minutes from Görlitz away. You can take an historic stream train to Zittau. You can go to Löbau. There you will find the Haus Schminke. And what is this Haus Schminke? It's one of the 4 most important residential homes of classical modernism in the world. Yeah. So if you go, you know, you can really go north, south, west, east, and everywhere are hidden places. And one last maybe to mention, I can continue like for hours, but. It's in the north, it's just an hour away, and this is nothing. You can also take the train, so it's really easy, to travel. It's the UNESCO World Heritage site of Fürst Pückler Park and Castle, and wow, yeah, it's worth seeing it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's the second UNESCO World Heritage site that we have in Saxony. Allow me to add one more thing to what Andrea has here told us. I can tell you, I came to Görlitz first in 2000. I immediately loved the place, as I told you, but it was a very different place. You know, it was a town where that would shut down Friday at lunchtime and reopen only on Monday morning. That has changed completely. And the charm is all, these little boutique hotels that have sprung up with just a few rooms, which are all different, very cute restaurants and cafes, which we couldn't even all show you. So it's really worth exploring, and it's really worth staying there instead of just going for a day trip from Dresden. Wow, thank you very much for coming here and taking the time to be with us. So much talking makes me hungry, aren't you? So let's go and have our lunch. I promise you it's going to be very interesting. If you're hungry like me, follow me to the restaurant Lucy Schulte. It's in the backyard of this beautiful building. But before we go there, we have to share some secrets with the Whispering Arch. It is constructed in such a way that you can speak with a toneless voice on one end and hear everything in perfect detail at the other end. Hallo, und jetzt gibt es lecker Essen. Oh ja, ganz toll. Oh ja, ganz toll.
So, unser Landskronenwilsener.
Vielen Dank.
Sehr zum Wohl.
Dankeschön. The Landskron beer is named after the Landeskrone, the local mountain, which means crown of the land. The brewery is one of the 4,000 buildings listed as monuments in Görlitz. In the Jackie Chan movie Around the World in 80 Days, it was used as a location for the docks of New York. Cheers! Let's see what the chef has prepared for us.
So, das sind die Görlitzer Blutwurstnudeln mit geschmolzener Kreuzwurst und Sauerkraut. Viel frischem Mayo an. Guten Appetit.
Dankeschön. This may be challenging for your mind, but trust me, it's rewarding for your taste buds. This is black pudding pasta with white pudding. Enjoy.
Die schlesischen Mondklöße mit Vanillerahm, frischer Minze und ein paar Beeren.
Dankeschön. This is a very, very special dessert that I love. Silesian poppy seed dumplings with vanilla sauce and berries. Silesia is a former part of Germany which now belongs to Poland. Görlitz was part of the Prussian province of Silesia from the early 19th century till World War II. So there's a distinctive Silesian influence in this town, which is also reflected in the Christmas market. Dig in. Digestive, please.
Der Böckelbart zum Schluss.
Danke.
Wohl bekommst.
The Böckelbart is an herbal liquor made from 70 different ingredients. Let's hope they all get along. Cheers! They say that Görlitz has two historic town centers. We've already seen the medieval part, but there's also another part which grew in the 19th and early 20th century, in the second boom period of Görlitz, towards the new train station. So just seeing this would justify any visit to Görlitz. So let's explore. In the 19th century, Görlitz experienced its second heyday. The town expanded due to the industrialization, and it also became the favorite retirement place for Prussian government officials. And the station that you see here at the end of the street became a major traffic junction. The area between the station and the medieval town center turned into the prime shopping district of Görlitz. Very close to one of the towers of the former fortifications, the largest department store of Görlitz was opened in 1913. It is erected in the Art Nouveau style. Does it look familiar to you? Well, in the movie Grand Budapest Hotel, it served as the entrance hall of the hotel. For the outer facade, the concert hall of Görlitz was used. At this location, Otto Straßburg opened his department store, which includes a beautiful passage in the Art Nouveau style. He also contributed to the interior of the new synagogue. The new synagogue was erected between 1909 and 1911 as a highly modern construction with reinforced concrete, but in beautiful Art Nouveau forms. It was set on fire by the Nazis in the cynically called Crystal Night, but the fire was quickly put out by the local fire brigade, who had been informed too late that they were not supposed to interfere. Unfortunately, there's no Jewish community here today. What a terrible loss of lives and what a terrible loss of culture. The synagogue has now finally been fully restored and serves as a cultural center. This is a beautiful old schoolyard. Look at the decoration. There's a mermaid and a merman. Two distinctive inventions from Görlitz are still made in the town today. One is the two-story railroad car or railway carriage, and the other one is the so-called love pearls. Now, don't get carried away. We're talking about little sugar pearls here, which are meant to be eaten. As small as they are, they're very difficult to manufacture. The core consists of one large sugar crystal, which is then coated 60 to 70 times with corn sugar. Legend says that the inventor, Rudolf Heunkes, took them home to his family, declaring that he loved his family as much as he loved this new invention of his, which at that point was yet unnamed. So his wife suggested, why don't you call them love pearls? But let's carry on to Bautzen now. Bautzen has one advantage over Görlitz. Its beauty can be captured in one single photograph. I'm standing on a bridge crossing the Spree River. It's the same river that you find in Berlin, but it has its sources in this region. Behind me is the medieval town of Bautzen. It is just 45 minutes away from Dresden. You can see the upper town, which sits on a granite rock, and the lower town along the river. Bautzen has many towers. The one you see over there, which seems to be wearing a funny little hat, is the old water tower, which was used to pump water from the river up to the town. The technology is still fully functioning and it can be demonstrated. This is another tower, the Reichenturm, which means the Tower of the Rich. Once you've seen the street behind it, which is named after the rich people as well, you understand why. This used to be part of a gate. And when the gate was knocked down, the tower started to lean. So it's better known as the Leaning Tower of Bautzen. In fact, it leans more than the Tower of Pisa. But don't worry, it has been stabilized and absolutely safe. So let's get up. Here at the market square, there's the town hall of Bautzen. Right next to it, you see a beautiful row of Baroque houses in the same style that was very common in Dresden before the destruction during World War II. Believe it or not, Bautzen also suffered heavily in the war because it was the site of one of the last major tank battles. However, the communist regime decided to build a completely new quarter outside the historic town center. So this way, the historic buildings could be saved after German reunification. Today's St. Peter's Cathedral stands at the oldest church location in this region, known as Upper Lusatia. It is a late Gothic hall church, but it received a predominantly Baroque interior after a fire. Since 1524, it's been shared by the Catholic and the Protestant Church, making it the oldest church of its kind in Germany. The two halves of the church are today only divided by a small fence, and they are united under the painting of the Last Supper. When after centuries the Catholic Diocese of Meissen was re-established in 1921, this church became the cathedral, or the Catholic half of it. After the bishop moved to Dresden, the diocese became the Diocese of Dresden-Meissen, and the church has to share status with the cathedral in Dresden. The former bishop's palace is still around, and there's a museum of sacred art in it. Former St. Nicholas Church was destroyed in the 30 Years' War and has been a ruin ever since. If a very romantic one. It was part of the fortifications of the town. From the other side, you have fantastic views of the lower town. Upper Lusatia has always been tolerant when it comes to religion and culture. The reason for that is that the region changed hands frequently until the 17th century when it became part of Saxony. The bold relief on the tower that you see behind me shows one of the rulers from the 15th century, Matthias Corvinus, or King Matthew of Hungary. It's considered to be one of the best art pieces from that period of time. You will find the same artwork in Budapest. But remember, the one in Budapest is only a copy. This is the original. The rulers of this region always came from the outside world. So they were represented here by governors. And they ruled from here, Ortenburg Castle. The main building, which was later converted into a Renaissance castle, is a court today. This is the Sorbian Museum. Unlike in other parts of Saxony, the Slavic people were able to sustain their culture and their language in this region. So everything here is bilingual. The customs of the Sorbs come most alive during the times of Easter. And the modern building over here is a puppet theater. The historic allegory of tragedy behind glass was originally created for Gottfried Semper's first theater building in Dresden by famous sculptor Ernst Rietschel, who hailed from this region. Bautzen is not only the capital of the Sorbs, but also the mustard capital of Germany. Here at the Bautzen Mustard Museum, you can taste products from Bautzner, Germany's best-selling brand, and products specially created here at this location. So let's go and have some. The German expression for adding one's 2 cents or putting in one's tuppence worth is to add one's mustard, which I frequently do. So the best way to shut me up is remember, Bautzen always cuts the mustard. Luckily, Bautzen isn't far from Dresden, so you will have enough time to pack your things before we have our goodbye dinner. Tomorrow we're going to have an early start. That means today we can't have our traditional nightcap at Frank's bar. But since you go packing now, I will have a drink there on my own, thinking of you. So, Ilya, what do we have today? This one is called Mrs. Christmas. Let's see what's in there. Aha! It's made from Calvados, port, lime juice, cinnamon syrup, sugar syrup, apple and cloves. Cheers! Have a wonderful Christmas season. Very, very good. Okay. Our goodbye dinner will take place in a restaurant which serves very good looking and very tasty seasonal food. In my opinion, it offers great value for money and it has been around for many, many years, always maintaining the high quality standards. Kai, the owner, and I have found out that we went to the same disco when we were young and our hairstyles were different. In any case, so now Kai and I both love to live and work in Dresden. So let's enjoy dinner. We are at my favorite restaurant in Dresden. It is called Alte Meister, which means Old Masters, because this is an extension of the Old Masters picture gallery, which used to be an artist workshop. You can still see some of the old decorations here in the room. And from here you have a beautiful view of the Semper Opera House.
Bitte schön, zum Wohl.
Vielen Dank. I always like to start with Kai's Aperol. This is different from a normal Aperol because it has peach juice in it. It's really delicious. Cheers! Let's see what the chef has prepared for us today. It's always fresh and seasonal cuisine. Vielen Dank. This, for example, is butternut pumpkin soup with quail breast. Doesn't that look wonderful? Let's dig in. Oh, the main course is coming. Wow! That looks wonderful. This is a veal in Voltini filled with chorizo. This is ratatouille, and all of this sits on a bed of a vegetable made basically from wheat.
Here we are with the dessert. Enjoy it.
Vielen Dank. Wow. Okay, this is poached peach almond ice cream, and this is like a foamy soup of Riesling, and of course some fruits and some cream. Wow, this was the perfect end for the day. Yeah, time for your last questions. As you can see, I dressed up warmly for dinner. It gets a bit chilly in the evening. You wanted to know how the weather's like here. I mentioned before that in theory we have long hot summers and long cold winters and not very much rain, but with the climate change everything's a bit different. Of course at this time of the year it can get chilly, but you know, in recent years the winters were not particularly strong. We miss them because we actually like our snowfall here in this region, and we have some wonderful winter sports areas, including the highest town of Germany in the Our Mountains, Oberwiesenthal. Yeah, another question that was asked is, why isn't Görlitz listed amongst the top destinations in Germany? That's something I would also like to know. It should be there, absolutely. But like I said, it's still like a well-kept secret, unfortunately. We're trying our best. Görlitz Marketing does, we do. Aber Lusatia Marketing, sorry, I forgot the middleman. But we have, I think, already reached new audiences and everybody who's seen Görlitz loves it instantly. We'll get there eventually. One of the issues is, of course, is to also move tour operators to change their programs accordingly. And you know how it's like, if some things are successful, you don't want to fiddle with the formula. And that was a problem for the whole of East Germany, actually, after reunification. Everybody already had successful travel programs in Germany, in the West. And also, a lot of people fly into Frankfurt or Munich, which are the main hubs. Both of them are in the south, basically south or southwest of Germany. So then Görlitz seems to be far away, but it isn't. Somebody remarked that connections to Görlitz aren't so good. I think that's not true, because every hour you can take a train from Görlitz to Dresden, or from Dresden to Görlitz. It's only 1 hour 15 minutes, and they're even planning an ICE connection to Görlitz from Berlin for the future. So things will get better, Görlitz will become better known, but come here soon, send people here soon, because still you're on your own. As I said, it's very affordable and a wonderful place to be at. Yeah, as usual, I will stay on after we're done to answer more questions. And Andrea is also still with me, but I would now like to thank people who were involved in this project. And let me allow me to look at the list, because I don't want to forget anybody. First of all, I would like to thank our managing director, Veronika Hiebel. You met her twice, because she's always open-minded when it comes to new ideas. Then I want to give special thanks to Lisa, who organized the trip. She wanted to be with us here tonight, but she couldn't be. Thank you, Lisa, for all your effort and your never-ending optimism in getting everything done in time and organized in time. Yeah, who's next? Everybody else, of course, at Saxony Tourism who was involved in this FEM trip. We are a great team. Thanks to everybody there too. Yeah, couldn't have done it without our partners in the Saxon tourism industry who helped us organize things and who were there for us. Thanks to everybody there as well. Then, of course, to all the studio guests that were here, to all our representatives abroad who basically spread the word and told you about this virtual FEM trip. Then I want to thank, of course, Ilya, who is hiding away in the dark parts of his bar, but it was very nice that we could use his bar as a studio. People wanted to know where it is. It is not in the city center, it's in the new town, so on the other side of the Elbe River, which is the most popular destination for nightlife and has also interesting boutiques, and it's kind of like the alternative part of Dresden that you will also enjoy very much when you're here. Yeah, I also want to thank everybody I forgot, and last but not least, I want to thank the whole team at Sachsenfernsehen, that's Saxony Television. All of them, but particularly Christian, who had to suffer most. He's the guy who shot all the videos, who edited them, who put the wonderful music under them. And I think he said something like he has spent more time with me in the last few weeks than with all of his girlfriends before. Christian, come, show your face. Thank you, Christian. And of course, Till, who was also with us when we shot all the sequences. Yeah, but that's not the last thank you. Of course, most of all, I want to thank you all for registering and participating in this fam trip, for all the wonderful comments in the chats, for the feedbacks. Please, if you find the time, give us a few minutes and give us a written feedback by email to the same email that you use for the registration, so that we can preserve that and share it with everybody who wants to know. Have a good journey home and hopefully see you soon in Saxony or in your beautiful home countries. Thank you very much. I will miss you. Bye.